Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling the ultimate myth versus reality surrounding the French national team heading into the 2026 World Cup. We're going to look right past all those dazzling headlines and really dig into the data, the tactics, and the quiet vulnerabilities of what pretty much everyone considers the most terrifying footballing force on the planet.
Because on paper, right, this team looks literally invincible. They're heading into their group as massive favorites. But here's the thing you've got to ask yourself. Has this ultimate football juggernaut actually been broken by structural flaws behind the scenes? As we look ahead to the tournament in North America, the real question isn't if France has the talent to win it all, it's whether the cracks in their foundation are already just too deep to fix.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll look at that terrifying French arsenal. Second, how they master the rest attack. Third, the massive structural void left by Griezmann. Fourth, the off-pitch chaos and some seriously spooky historical curses. And finally, the exact blueprint on how to beat them.
All right, kicking things off with part one, the terrifying French arsenal.
I mean, just think about the sheer depth of this squad. It's wild. You've got backup options. Guys like Bradley Barcola, Ryan Cherki, and Desire Doué, who could honestly rival their own starting trio. And that starting trio? Just Captain Kylian Mbappé, 2025 Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembélé, and Bayern Munich's absolute creative engine, Michael Olise. Every single one of these guys brings something totally world-class to the table. Whether it's Dembélé's two-footed unpredictability or Olise's crazy assist numbers, opponents aren't just facing a starting 11, they are facing relentless, elite waves of attackers coming right off the bench.
To put that dominance into perspective, 30 goals scored across the last two World Cups alone. That is 5 more than anyone else. We literally haven't seen an offensive output like that across 2 consecutive tournaments since Brazil did it way back in the 1970s. So yeah, they don't just win games, they score in absolute bunches.
And then you add in Kylian Mbappé. His World Cup record is just staggering. 12 goals in only 14 appearances. He's already breathing down the neck of the all-time tournament scoring records. It's like the second he puts on that national team jersey, he just elevates into a completely different stratosphere.
Which brings us to part two, mastering the rest attack.
So how do they weaponize all that talent? Well, instead of falling back into a normal defensive shape when they lose the ball, France does something super interesting. They leave Mbappé high and wide, basically giving him 0 defensive duties. They are intentionally setting a trap. For them, setting up the immediate counterstrike is way more important than putting 11 men behind the ball.
They pull this off in 3 deliberate steps. Instead of pressing super high, they sit back in this compact block, and this puts the other team in a totally brutal dilemma. Think about it. Do you push your guys forward to help your attack, or do you stay back to babysit Mbappé? The second France wins that ball back, bam, the trap springs. Mbappé is already perfectly positioned, facing forward, and ready to just explode into all that open space.
And it's not just when they're defending. When they actually have the ball, they use this tricky setup called the 3+2 buildup. By dropping a fullback back and staggering their holding midfielders, they're honestly just baiting the other team to press them. And if you take the bait, if you push up, you leave a massive ocean of space right behind your midfield for those lethal French attackers to exploit.
All right, moving on to part three, the Griezmann structural void.
Now this is where things get really interesting. When Antoine Griezmann retired in September 2024, it wasn't just losing a good player. As this perfectly captures, it was a structural collapse. It was literally losing the team's heartbeat and wiring. Griezmann wasn't just scoring goals, he was the glue. He was the guy who could drop between the lines, take the ball under intense pressure, turn, and just magically unlock everything in front of him.
The before and after is kind of shocking. With Griezmann, the attack just flowed seamlessly. Without him, you've got these incredibly talented midfielders like Camavinga and Tchouaméni, but they're reduced to just passing the ball sideways. They're amazing players for sure, but they aren't natural connectors in that number 10 role. And because of that, Mbappé gets completely isolated up top. He goes from being this lethal weapon to basically a spectator, totally dulling the edge of the whole French attack.
Which leads us right into part four, chaos and historical curses.
Because on top of the tactics, there is some serious psychological baggage here dragging them down. You've got Mbappé struggling with a positional identity crisis at Real Madrid that he's dragging right into the national team setup. Plus, the dressing room hierarchy is totally fractured now without Griezmann there to keep the peace. I mean, we're talking about severe internal tension, like a training ground bust-up that literally put Fede Valverde in the hospital after clashing with Tchouaméni. The team's focus is just totally fractured right now. And the pressure is just immense. Get this, over 73 million people signed a petition to get Mbappé out of Real Madrid. 73 million! That is insane baggage to carry directly into a massive tournament. When a generational talent spends months fighting for form and clarity at his club, all that unresolved tension just gets cranked up to an 11 when the international spotlight hits.
Oh, and let's not forget the literal curses they're up against. France has to break two historically stubborn trends. First, the ranking curse. Since the FIFA ranking started, the team entering the World Cup at number 1 has literally never won the tournament. Never. And second, the Ballon d'Or curse. For over 70 years, no team featuring the reigning Ballon d'Or winner, which for 2025 is Ousmane Dembélé, has won the World Cup in that same year. So yeah, history is very much not on their side.
And finally, Part 5. How to beat France. So what's the actual game plan for taking them down? The overarching philosophy is surprisingly simple. Don't just sit back and hope, suffocate them. Teams that sit deep and pray or try to just outmuscle them inevitably lose. You have to know exactly where their structural weak points are and hammer them.
We actually saw this blueprint in the 2022 final. Argentina proved that high-chaos transitions can completely short-circuit the French system. They forced Didier Deschamps into full-blown panic mode. I mean, he burned his substitutions, pulling off Giroud and Dembélé by the 41st minute. That wasn't some genius tactical tweak. That was a manager realizing his midfield was getting absolutely overrun before halftime and having no plan left.
Now, heading into 2026, the modern blueprint is even clearer, but it takes specific tools. You need Germany's ultra-aggressive counterpress to target that missing connector, or Portugal's suffocating ability to control the midfield tempo, turning the game into a chess match that just frustrates the forwards. Or you look at teams like the USA and Turkey, who bring this raw physical intensity and feed off the sheer environmental momentum, the US especially playing in that intense July heat without the drag of international travel adjustments. And Germany showed us exactly how effective a relentless counterpress can be back in March 2024. They punished that Griezmann-sized hole in France's midfield perfectly. France loses the ball and bam, 5 German players swarm the space in under 3 seconds. 7 seconds later, Florian Wirtz puts it in the back of the net. When France is missing that connective tissue, a coordinated, aggressive press is going to find a target and break them every single time.
So, the window is wide open. Who's going to walk through it? They've got a missing midfield connector, mounting psychological chaos from all that club-level drama, and a very clear tactical blueprint on how to beat them. France undeniably brings the greatest collection of individual attacking talent we have seen in decades. But tournaments are won by connected, cohesive teams, not just star-studded rosters. Will their sheer individual brilliance be enough to paper over these massive structural cracks? Or will a perfectly executed game plan send the heavy favorites packing early? Think about that for a second as the tournament kicks off. That wraps up this explainer for today. Keep learning, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.